Yo, what the hell is up? Welcome back to Reviews with Jake, where I just got done watching Obsession. An aptly named film considering its dominance over my algorithm the past few weeks, because my god has this film erupted. I'll admit I did not have this movie on my radar at all. I think I saw the trailer a couple months back in the theater and gave it the old gladiator thumbs down. It just didn't really look very good if I'm being honest, and I was saving myself the burden of another movie to try and get to the theater and inevitably fail because, in case you haven't noticed, your boy's having a hard time getting to the theater these days. But then this movie is released and the obsessive chatter begins surrounding this movie. I mean, it was everything. It was the acting performances, it was the director, it was the budget, the profits, the insanity. I don't remember a film that entered the zeitgeist of everything on the internet quite like this one has the past few weeks. Now, I've basically been on the road the entire month of May, and it just so happened that all the buzz I'm hearing happens between a couple work trips out west, and I'm home for a week, and I just feel like my hand was forced. I needed to go see this movie because it's seriously all I'm hearing or reading about. This is like the most amount of pressure I've felt to get to the movie since the Barbenheimer experience of 2023, I think it was, and thankfully comparing the two, this one is a little bit more reasonable. For starters, life is crazy right now, but nothing too cataclysmic like my dad's health declining that was happening when that happened. I mean, that combination almost gave Reviews with Jake the knockout punch. It almost killed this channel completely. And also, you know, this was only a 1-2 hour movie versus that being a 5-hour movie combo between those two films. So all things considered, this was nuts, but I'll take this over that. Well, let's start the pros where everyone else is. Our two lead acting performances of Michael Johnston and Indy Navarrete. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I should by now based on how much everyone's talking about her, but boy, did they live up to the hype. I imagine this was a very challenging movie to act in for both parties for very different reasons. One of them was in like this crippling state of anxiety and dread throughout the entire thing. And the other one was just this ping pong emotions, very loud physical performance. I mean, hats off to both of them. They both nailed each of them. This film is a great case study in terms of what talent can bring to a film. For starters, it is a good example of how fantastic performances can really elevate a story. I mean, we'll get into the story a little bit more later, but I don't think this movie would have been nearly as successful if these two didn't knock it out of the park. Without these two, the film probably would end up being, well, what I thought the trailer was before I saw these performances. But because of these two, it entered like a whole nother echelon here. That is the power of really good acting. Secondly, and probably most importantly, actors and actresses are out there that are of this caliber, and you have never heard of them. And you have to remember that. This isn't like the NFL, for instance, where you know for sure if you're watching a game from that league that you know you're watching the best in the world. There isn't a hidden quarterback under a rock somewhere that just hasn't gotten the chance. There's a system in place. It's high school and college and scouts, recruitment and money, NIL, everything. You know that the best and the best at that point are in this league, and anything less than that has been filtered out, like the league sorts itself out. But in the world of acting, yes, you have the names that you know you can trust to get a good performance from. Cate Blanchett, Leonardo DiCaprio, Kathy Bates, Christian Bale. I mean, the list goes on and on. But these aren't the only people that you know you could get a fantastic performance from. There are so many people out there that are just waiting for their shot to get in front of you, the audience, to get in front of studios and filmmakers, to get their shot to turn in a performance like this. So next time your favorite movie or show is casting and you have never heard of the person that they chose, don't roll your eyes and cross your arms and say, they're probably going to do a terrible job. Just let them cook like these two did. Or should I say 3, because Curry Barker, our director, also deserves some recognition here. Now, obviously, there's a lot more roles involved in making a movie than just the director, but he is the one who gets all of the ships rowing in the right direction, and that technically really deserves some credit. This is a guy looking at IMDb. I have never heard of the things he worked on. Supposedly, he has some YouTube roots. I don't know any of these things. Going down his IMDb, it does nothing for me, but that doesn't mean this guy doesn't have an immense amount of talent and can operate in this position at a really high level. I think he handled this film brilliantly by establishing right off the bat when our girl changes, and you see a lot of long takes and long sits on situations where you just see her mind kind of loading and rendering, and she's all over the place. She's here, she's here, she's here, sits for a moment, and then over here, flying all over the place. Like, you genuinely get a sense that she is capable of anything at any given moment because she is so reactionary. Because this first scene is so effective and you understand the unpredictable nature of our girl, you officially signed up for and buy the tension-filled ride that Curry Barker is going to take you on the rest of the runtime. He's just now your plaything, and while you just put your arms in the armrest and dig holes into it with your fingers. He's not afraid to let shots and situations linger on longer than most people do because he knows that you are caught in the web. He knows that you're not going to get impatient from getting her from here to here because you know that anything can happen with this girl from getting her from here to here. And every step and every breath she takes of moving in that direction, you know anything can happen and you're just bursting with anxiety. He also had a lot of play with negative space where there was so many great sequences in this movie where our boy is framed up in the center of the frame like this and crazy unnerving shit is happening outside of it. Sometimes it's soft and out of focus in the background, sometimes it's crystal clear, sometimes she's not even in the frame at all and you're just hearing stuff through some very strong sound design. Either way, it's a great play of negative space. Really, this movie was just a perpetual build of tension. There was no release. Even when our characters go to sleep, that's when like the scariest shit happens in this movie. So like there was no rest. The tension just continues to build and build and build, and I thought it was really well done. The only real relief you ever get from the dread are the moments of levity where he kind of scoots that line between comedy and horror, where you have brutal gore happening one minute and chuckles the next. And there's so many moments where that line between whether or not you should be laughing at a situation just gets kicked away in the sand. I will also say that this film has a very unique handle of the hero character. Like, we've all seen the Curse movies of this variety before, and the character that we mostly follow throughout most of these movies usually follow a very specific template, an archetype. But this movie diverts that in a very interesting way. This movie takes the innocence from this particular central character from him early on and never gives it back. Like, usually in the Curse type movies, the character does make a very simple, honest mistake that leads to the events unfolding. And eventually, you know, that innocence comes back and we start to side with them and hoping that they're able to remedy that issue. But this film, I can't be the only person out there that never really sided with our central character, even as unspeakable horrors are happening to him. Yes, he's a very passive and harmless guy and quiet and meek and all of those things, but that doesn't mean he doesn't suck, and he kinda does. He wears the mask of the victim archetype very well because of his very quiet demeanor, but if you look at his actions throughout this movie with a fine comb, you quickly realize that this is not a very good person. Now, despite this being a very unique and refreshing approach to this character archetype, does it really add anything? Like, does it make the story, the characters, the side plots, all that any stronger than if they had played it safe with what we're used to seeing in movies of this type of formula? No, I wouldn't say so. This movie isn't very deep. It's really nothing more story-wise than just a sandbox for our director to play in and situations circulating around it to play with this interesting concept. It also kind of felt like there was a lot of meat left on the bone for this concept at the end of the runtime. Again, tiptoeing around spoilers, but there are a few moments of looking at her actions, like the sack lunch that she makes, for instance, for those of you that have seen the movie. I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around how that was done in her head for the sake of showing her love for him. Like, I just feel like that was just done for shock and awe in the audience more than anything that fits the concept. Like, could we have replaced bits like that with something maybe a little bit deeper, where she's playing chess and not checkers? Like, really deep manipulation that would have been deeper than surface level cuts, like really cut down to the bone. I wish we would have done a little bit more of that deeper stuff instead of just that shock and awe and gross. I don't know, maybe I was just looking for something a little bit more, and maybe that is a byproduct of the fact that I got to this movie too late, because the internet was just doing things with my mind and my expectations that when I went in, my expectations and hopes for this movie were just unreasonably high. It was impossible to be met there and reached, just based on all the things I was reading. And that's not the fault of this particular movie or the filmmaker. All in all, this is a classic example as to why I try like the plague to desperately see a movie I want to see before anyone else sees them, because I don't like having other people's thoughts and opinions on the movie. I like to go in pure and fresh. Unfortunately for this movie, I did not go in with such circumstances. By the time a couple weeks later that I saw this movie, I was just getting blasted by other people's thoughts and opinions on it. I mean, I was flying in a hurricane of sway. That's not to say this isn't a very good movie. This is very strong. It's almost certainly going to end up in my top 5 because it is just that good. But that said, everything in moderation. Something that I think the characters of this particular story could benefit from. I will also say that it is wildly exciting to see a movie like this blasting off in the box office like it is. A low-budget horror movie of all genres. I mean, come on, that is awesome. This isn't your next Marvel film or Avatar or Top Gun Maverick. I mean, this is just good old-fashioned stripped-down storytelling, and it's awesome that filmmakers like this are getting an opportunity to show audiences what they can do, and audiences are loving it. I mean, hell yeah, what an exciting time in cinema. But that is just me. What do you think? Let me know if you agree or disagree in the comments below. And make sure you subscribe to this channel to stay up to date with new reviews coming real soon. Stay safe. Thanks for checking in.